Today we are starting the cab swap on this Volvo. We got lots of rain, so might as well do something, right? That is the truck we're taking the cab off of. We're going to take the hood, cab, front, everything, and put it on this truck here because we backed into this truck with a grain cart and rode it off. So we're going to put it back on the road for cheap. We're going to pop that cab off. There's the air ride in the back, and then there's two cab mounts in the front, and then we just have to disconnect all the lines and electrical. All right, I've got the cab up and it's sitting on a pallet. Everything's disconnected. Now we're gonna try and drive the bidirectional in and lift the cab up. We'll see how it goes. I think I've got everything disconnected, and hopefully the shifter goes straight up the cab and doesn't get stuck. This is definitely the sketchiest thing I've done in a long time. I would consider step one finished. The cab's on the ground, and this is all just parts now at this point. I'm gonna keep the hood though and turn that whole other truck, that red one back there, it's gonna be white now. All right, this cab is good to go. We've got everything disconnected. It's a little bit easier because it doesn't have this shifter through the middle, and I don't have to take that off. So now we'll just lift it up. Hopefully it goes pretty well. It's not as important, but I still don't want to wreck this cab because yeah, it's totaled, but I mean, there's good parts on it, so we're gonna try and lift this thing up. So now this truck is stripped down. We got the cab off. Now we're gonna do some interior work because that's a standard transmission cab and this is an auto. So we gotta make sure that everything's gonna function when we switch that cab onto this frame. Right now, we are gutting the interior. Gotta take the seats out because I need to take the floor mat, and that center block off pan for the shifter. We got all the bolts out, all the trim, everything's disconnected. Now I just got to grind the heads off of these 4 bolts here that divides the front to the back because they're all rusted, so I'm not going to be able to get them out. And then take the floor out, take the filler plate, and then start stripping down that one and figure what it needs for the automatic to work. So we pretty much got this thing gutted now. I got the doghouse out because that one is broken on the other one. And then we have the transmission block off plate right there, which we'll just do some light rust work to, and then put it in that one. And now I need to start taking the white cab apart. There it is. So that once I get it stripped down to this point, I can start pulling and rewiring all the wiring that I need in that one for the automatic. Unless it's already in there, and I would suspect that that truck has a harness equipped for an automatic, and I would think there's just a plug or two, but we'll see. This truck, obviously out of Ontario, it's in rough shape, and so this cab is a lot worse with rust than that one, which is nice actually. So we'll be getting kind of the best of both worlds with that cab. This truck has some really nice seats in it. They're low ride. Nice leather, not completely blown out, so that'll be nice. But this was a smoker's truck, so as much of the interior as we pull out, we're going to either change with that one or we'll just really clean it well before we put it back in. As far as I could tell on that other cab, there's no wiring, at least in this portion, so I gotta undo it from here. Hopefully there's a plug somewhere in here, and then I'm sure it goes to the display and then main power somewhere. Unfortunately, it looks like this turns into a pretty main harness going to, I'm guessing, the fuse block up there. Alright, well, things have gotten pretty severe here. We're going to have to take the whole harness out of this, and I'm going to take the display, and we're going to swap it into that truck over there. We are making progress. So everything's getting labeled with which pocket it goes into, which will make my life easier. And now we're just taking the rest of the interior out so that we can now pull the harness and get it swapped into the other truck. At some point in these projects, you just get to a place where it's like, well, what if I take one more piece off? Who gives a shit? I'm already this far. So the whole dash is not connected anymore, and now I'm finally starting to pull the wiring harness because it's got all this shit in here and it's all got to come out. Well, we have, I don't know, 2/3 of the harness out, so we're getting there. We did it! Yay! I think I spent 3 hours, and well, I mean, there's nothing left in the interior really. That is my harness, and I had to pull that out to get this harness, which is integral, because that runs the automatic in this truck, and that's a standard truck. So now I will pull that harness out and put this one in. It sounds so simple, but it'll take me a while. I'm sure another 5 hours, maybe I'll have that cab buttoned up. We are getting right into it here and tearing everything apart because now I know it all has to come apart anyways. So let's get all banged out and then we'll be able to strip it a lot easier. It's always easier the second time you do it, so that took half as long. And now I've got the harness from this one laid out on the ground, kind of how it's run, and now I'm going to start feeding this harness in kind of the way that I took it out, and everything's labeled, so hopefully it goes together well. Actually, before I feed the harness in, I'm going to change over the foot pedal area because this has obviously a clutch, and so I need to get rid of that, block that off, and then the accelerator pedal has a different connector. I'm using that harness, so I got to take that pedal, and then once I get all that cleaned up, I'll wipe it down and then put the old harness from that one in. Well, thankfully for a change, the pedal was actually easy to remove. I didn't have to change this whole plate, which is nice. There we go. The clutch has been blocked off. Old skinny pedal has a flat connector. The new skinny pedal has a square connector. So we're gonna put this one in, get rid of this one. I quite like drive-by-wire, super easy. So that other standard truck had a clutch switch, and this one doesn't have a clutch obviously, so it's got a brake switch. So now we need to put this switch in that truck. So we got the switch installed, and now we adjust it because we want it to turn off when you push the pedal. So you just swing this bracket and then tighten down the bolt back there, and there you go. You can hear it clicking. All right, now we need to get these modules switched around. So all the modules from this truck I'm going to take out, and I'm going to put the ones in with that came with that other harness. So it'll just think it's that nothing has ever happened. I'm also taking the air brake buttons because this was like a month old when we wrecked the truck. I just put it in, and the red truck here has this sensor in line and that other one doesn't, so I'll need this for my harness. I think that's everything I need to swap over in order for the new harness to fit this new cab. So now I'm gonna do a little bit of cleaning in here because it's so open before I close it up. So before I put the new harness in, I'm gonna blow it out, maybe wipe it down, something like that. I went over everything and I wiped it down with bleach and vinegar. I didn't have anything fancy, but everything got wiped down. Hopefully it cuts back on the smell, and now everything will be clean when I put it back together. Everything in the cab has been cleaned very well and prepped, and everything's switched over. So we are ready to put the harness in, because once you get that in, you can't do much on the dash. So now I'm going to kind of lay this out and organize it a bit more on this mat here. And then once it's like laid out properly and I've got the connectors where I need them, I'm going to feed it in. And the way I took it out was through the middle of the dash, and I think that worked really well. So we'll just go back in the way it came out. All right, well, now is when the real job begins. Getting it back in. That will be the hardest task. I had the harness laid out and I was pre-planning where I was running the wires, getting everything where I needed to go so that I could attack this job properly. There was one connector that I wasn't quite sure what it was for, and it wasn't labeled, and in my mind, obviously, if it wasn't labeled, it was going to be obvious enough obvious enough that I'd figure it out pretty shortly. So just started putting the wiring in, and I found the connector. It's right here. It's 5-pin, which is the same as this. It's actually 6-pin with only 5 pins in it. But so I know that's for sure the one. Now I have to figure it out because it's in here somewhere, and then run it through the dash and over to here. We are making good progress though. We're gonna start plugging stuff in and working through this harness in sections, and this dash or driver's side area is our first section that we're attacking. That's my connector right over there. So it ties into the harness here, and we'll just feed it up and along the back of this main harness, going behind and through here. Well, as we pull this thing through, we are getting it sorted, so it's getting there, but you just kind of gotta pick a couple plugs and pull them through and get them where they need to be, and then move on to the next couple. So everything on this side is now run. We've got a bunch of modules in the bottom plugged in, and that side is kind of where it needs to be up to the steering wheel. Now we just need to organize the wires here, get them facing into the cubbies where they need, and then we can bolt some things down. So we are getting far enough in the process that I'm going to start putting stuff back together and closing it up as I go here now. There's a lot of plugs here, and there's a couple dead ends, and I don't think they hook up to anything, but it's always like, well, I didn't think there were any dead ends, and well, I thought maybe there was a connector in there, but we'll see. It's starting to look like a truck again. I am quite concerned with what's going to happen when I actually try to start it though. I think we'll have some issues in here, and I'll be taking it apart again. Alright, well, the cab is back to looking like a cab again. When I went to put the doghouse on though, it didn't fit because this module where it was mounted underneath here, it just didn't clear it, which is weird. So now I have to figure out where I'm going to mount this module. I'll probably tuck it up back in there. There's some room, but it's just now how do I get it up in there? On the Volvo, there's a few nice things off of this cab we want to take and put on that cab over there. One being this upper bar with the spring on it, and then it's got the nice hose holders right there mounted on the side, which we don't have as well. We got Andrew underneath there, rust converting, spraying anything that looks bad, and then we'll just rocker guard the whole underside, and then it'll be ready to go on the truck. The tractor, it lifts it pretty well, and honestly it lifts it better from the back where I am now than the side where you have to take it off from the truck. The cab is all put together. We did a bunch of painting underneath, and it's time to go on this truck now. It's gonna look like a truck again here real soon. We got the two front main cab bolts in. You can see one there, and then there's one on the other side. So the front of the cab is mounted now, which is awesome. That's the hard part for that step, I guess. I feel like I've been saying this a lot. And now we will connect everything underneath the cab, and then we'll lower the back, hook up the back air bay bracket, and then hopefully end of the day we'll be starting it. We have most everything connected underneath the cab now. I have to do the hood hinges, and then now we're just doing some zip tying, cleaning it all up, and getting it where it needs to be. And then, well, we also have to do the steering, which I'm kind of just avoiding right now. Hopefully, like the next hour, maybe we'll be trying to start this thing, and we'll do it together. So I've got everything buttoned up under the hood and all the electrical on the far side. Now I'm doing all the exhaust. I just got it mounted in the back here, and now I can tighten all the flanges and pipe clamps. And now, once I do that, I can lower the cab, and I'll put in my automatic controller, and then we can fire it up. Well, we've got the transmission controller hooked up there. Let's see if anything even happens. Oh, the dash lights up. It's dead, but that's a good sign it cranked. Well, it's running. Doesn't feel fantastic, but it's running. It's going, let's go. So on this Volvo, I mean, it's a running, driving truck. It was over there, and I drove it forward and parked it here. I haven't driven it since because we've been in the field. But I got the seats in, so now the interior looks pretty good. I don't know if I'm gonna like the seats or not, but we'll try them. They're nice. Everything's hooked up, we got it closed up. It's nice. I gotta do some trim work and just finish things out, but I mean, it's pretty good. Other than that, I still need to mount my drive module here somewhere because it's a different seat, so it's not made for it. But the plan is with this truck, we're gonna take all the chrome accents that are on the red stuff, put it on the white stuff, and keep that. It's got that bar on the front. We're gonna put that, all that on this truck. And then we got the mirror covers from the other one. We'll make it look nice, but it'll be one good looking truck and put together for a fraction of the price. First order of business today is make the shifter module fit and mount on the truck properly. And it's not that truck. That is the other Volvo we have. I like that truck too. That one's nice. But anyways, we're gonna get that mounted and some things buttoned up and try and get this thing ready to go to integrity and safety. All right, we got a bracket made. The shifter will bolt to this, and with the same bolts, it'll bolt to the seat through it. So when we backed into this truck with the grain cart, we obviously destroyed the cab, wrote it off, and now to be put back on the road, it has to pass a body integrity as well as a safety, and then it's gonna get a custom VIN, a bunch of other bullshit paperwork. But to do that, we also, when we hit it, managed to somehow pop an airbag, and we damaged the tank strap right here. We ripped off this bottom foot strap. So we changed that with the other truck. It's nice to have parts because we can get everything for cheap. And then now we're going to get an airbag, fix the airbag. We are mounting our shifter bracket that we built to the seat. So we kind of notched out the frame, cut out some plastic stuff. And now we've got one bolt in there, and then the rest of these bolt holes get filled when we put the shifter on, and then it should clear the seat just nicely. All right, the shifter is mounted. So, fits nicely there. Kind of looks factory. All right, now I have to go over this truck and make sure it passes the safety, because if I'm sending it there, it's got to pass, and I don't want to pay someone else to do it. So, the lights don't work, or one of them doesn't, because we stole the wiring on it for our other truck when this one was down. So now we're gonna, instead of changing the lights, we're just gonna change the whole hood with the white one, and we're gonna do the bumper at the same time because it makes it easier to take the hood off. We took this hood off an hour ago, and then I got distracted doing something else, and then I need to go get something underneath this hood, and I lifted it up, forgetting that I had completely detached it, and now it's on the ground, so that sucks. I had to switch the lights, and I wasn't gonna switch the lights and not do the caps, then I had to do not do the hood, but then to do the hood, you have to take the bumper off, so I guess I'm switching the bumper, and if I'm taking the bumper off and I want to put that bar on, I might as well do that at the same time. So that snowballed pretty quickly, but here we are. Hood's on, looks good. I love those lights. Those things are awesome. And it's turned out well. This hood lines up way nicer. Man, that looks good. You can't even tell that this is a completely different truck. That turned out amazing. And we're taking off the decals, but that looks so good. There we go. It's pretty much done, back to being a normal truck. We will have those rear doors changed and painted though, because those ones are rusty. So we're getting this truck ready for safety. I put new diff temp sensors in from that parts truck, and then I got new pigtail ends from the dealer because they always break because of the gravel. And now I got rid of all the early air leaks, the easy ones, and then now we're looking for some of the non-easy ones to find, because this thing's leaking down pretty quick and I need it to hold air. Right now on the truck, we're more just doing maintenance instead of a swap now at this point, but we're getting it ready for a safety. I've fixed probably 7 air leaks, and a lot of them had nothing to do with the swap. It's just the push lock fittings. As soon as an O-ring wears out, I mean, even if you cut the line, it's still gonna leak. So they get old and you just have to change them, which those are expensive. But now the last air leak, it's back here. It's one of the electric valves for the suspension. So we're gonna take one off of the other truck, hopefully, and put it in here. These are pretty neat little valves. Once you have it unbolted, each one of those, you just twist them and they pop apart. So I need to change this one, which is the second one, so I can just twist the first and third off, put this new valve on, well, used, but hopefully it doesn't leak. And then you just take and unbolt the controller, like the solenoid, and then put it on the new one you put in. Should be good. Yeah, so I take back what I said about these valves. I don't really like them now. These bolts underneath here, those little ones, they just break and get stuck in the valve, and I couldn't figure out how to get these clips off. It's like they're not supposed to come off, so then it's a real pain, and you got to get the broken bolt out. But anyways, we got it back together. Let's hope it doesn't leak. All right, well, the truck is all done. It's completely put back together. This is the best condition this truck has ever been in. And like, it's near perfect for what it is. I'm super excited to start running this thing. And we got a few nice upgrades out of the deal. The back panels over there are gonna get taken off and painted. And then this thing is nearly rust free. I got an awesome moose bumper on it. It's got heavy rear ends with full lockers, auto grease. It even has disc brakes, which is really weird because it's got a completely upgraded suspension. But this thing is ready to be put back on the road. All we have to do is pass our safety and integrity. I got the interior completely cleaned, and it's a nice truck. I like it. I'm happy with how it turned out. All right, I'm here at Penner Performance, and they are the ones who are going to be doing everything. They are going to gauge the frame, make sure it's not bent. They're going to do an alignment on it. They are going to do an integrity, a safety, as well as they will change the front windshield because it is cracked, and I'm sure they'll pass the safety. So it's going to be a big bill, but it'll be on the road. Probably get that done in 2 weeks, and then we have to go get a custom VIN because it's got a cab with a different truck on it, and that'll take another couple weeks. So in a month, hopefully, this will be on the road. Here is why I didn't just go buy a brand new truck. Now, this isn't the truck that I'm doing the integrity on. This is my other truck, but let's go over the numbers. I have them right here. Maybe this will make you think. So I purchased that truck that we wrote off for $21,000. $500 after taxes and fees at a Ritchie auction. We then hit it with a grain cart, and we got paid $50,000 from our insurance company when it got written off. With that, we had the option to buy the truck back for $9,000, which we did. We then sat on it for a year until we found a parts truck that matched our build and was the right price, so we bought that truck for $7,500. Then we have $5,000 worth of safeties and inspections. We did paint for $1,000, and let's say I did 3 weeks of 40 hours a week, which is high, but it's fairly close. That would give me labor of $3,600. Then I'd say we got $2,500 worth of good quality upgrade parts that make the truck worth a bit more. And then we're left with the donor truck, which we have probably $12,000 worth of parts easy between axles, transmission, engine parts, and then we could scrap the frame, and we got tires and batteries and stuff. So after all that, after buying the truck and getting paid out and building our other truck, we still made $14,000 $400. So we got paid $14,000, and we got a mint truck with a known history, and it's a heavy spec truck that I know runs well. Or I could have taken that $50,000 that I got, went out and bought a $40,000 nice replacement safety truck. That truck there is not a $40,000 truck, but it's not nearly spec'd as nice as our other one. So I could have done that, and then at the end of the day, the $40,000 truck would have only cost me $11,500, which is still a good deal, but I have the skills to do it, and that's a difference of $25,000 that I put in my pocket just for doing 3 weeks worth of work. I'm a young farmer. I'm out here doing what I can to make it work. I'm not made of money, but I'm trying to get ahead, and building a truck like that is something that I can do to set me ahead. Here's a little update on the truck. We've been driving it now for like a month in harvest, and it's been working well. AC doesn't work, so we've got to fix that. And then I figured, hey, we'll service it because We did all the filters to it like a week before we wrote it off. We used it for a week and then we wrecked it with the grain cart. So it had fresh filters in it, but now it's been sitting for 3 years and driving sporadically. So we gave it a fresh oil change, and then I figured I'd go over it since we've driven it now for a little while, check the work we've done, and make sure it's good to go. My brother had mentioned to me when he was driving it that he didn't think the auto greaser was working, and it did work before we did the swap. And you would know that because you'd always see little dots of it coming out the fifth wheel, which is super nice to have. So I was doing some inspecting, traced the wires all the way up to the hood, and then I saw this cut wire, and I remembered when I was doing the cab swap that I thought that was an airline. I cut it, and then I didn't really know where it went, but it didn't seem to affect anything, so whatever, we'll figure it out later, or don't even worry about it. But we figured out what it was. It was for the auto greaser. So now let's find the module, and we'll get it all wired up and working again. I'm sure it'll be in here somewhere, because this is where all the parts went. I'm sure we'll find it. I may have to dig through this pile though. I'm amazed I was actually able to find everything. So here is the module, which is a timer, so when you start it or at some point it tells it to grease. And then here is, we got all the stuff we need to wire it in, and here's the end that I cut off. I really didn't want to, but the dash is taken apart again, so we're gonna get the wire routed from here up behind and up over to there. Here we go, got those 3 wires fixed that I cut, and now we'll just slide this heat shrink over and close it all up so that we don't have any corrosion issues. So I need to mount this module somewhere in here. I was going to do it up there, but I think maybe there's just more room in there behind the radio, so I'll just tuck it in down there, and then we'll run the wires up and grab power, and then it'll be clean and simple. Man, that was easy. We got power and ground right there, and then you can see my module just tucked in there with that red button on it. We'll zip tie that down. Whew! And we'll put the dash and cab a bit back together. And we're back in business now. It's just a waiting game to see if it greases itself, because I don't know what kind of interval or when it greases, so we will see, I guess.